Hi, friends. In the true spirit of spooky season, I have decided to dedicate this week's episode to the topic of fear. Hold on, I'm going to close that door because if a ghost pops out, I'm going to be terrified. Please hold. I've been watching very scary stuff. Halloween again. Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor. It's absolutely terrifying, so I had to close that door because if I was watching editing at midnight tonight and I saw something in the corner, I would not be well. So, sorry for that segue. Let's get back to it. You are stuck with me this week. It's just me, Audrey. And I was a little bit sad. I don't have any scary costumes. I have a bunch of punny costumes. It's usually more my style. But it's just me. It's 10 p.m. It's been a day. So you've got the hat we're rocking today. But really, really excited about this topic. And I'm reading this book called Think Like a Monk by Shett. If you haven't heard of it, I'm about to talk about it a lot because it is absolutely amazing. I'm about halfway through. It is gold. So chapter 3, I got there just in time, and this chapter is all about the topic of fear, just in time for Halloween. So before I drop some of those gems on you, I think we all experience fear a handful of times throughout a given day. When you think about fear, there's so many different spectrums of things we feel fear or afraid or anxiety about. So if we're being lighthearted, it could be something like fear of leg day, fear of lightning, maybe something a little bit sillier. If we're being a little bit more serious, maybe fear of flying, fear of heights, fear of snakes, fear of spiders. What about some of those fears that really hold us back in life? Things like fear of rejection, things like fear of failure or uncertainty, loneliness or fear of change. Do you have any overarching fears that are holding you back from getting what you really want? Fear can hold you back in your career, in your relationships, and in your dreams. So Shett in Think Like a Monk says that fear causes us to lose our connection with our abilities. Growing up, you're probably taught, or maybe you've heard, or whether it was your parents or your friends, your cousins growing up, don't be scared, be brave, don't be a chicken, don't be a scaredy cat. I'm sure we've all heard it and probably even said it. Don't play with me. It's all good. We've all likely been there. So with that in mind, fear really has the power to get the worst of us if we carry that into our adulthood and think that fear is something to be ashamed of or to cover up or to hide. But fear also has the power to get the best of us if we find a way to hone into that, unpack it, understand it, and really progress and move forward. So when you think about the world, the climate of the world, not only today in this crazy year that we're enduring, but just in general, uncertainty is in abundance. So we're never going to have everything figured out and everything under control. So what that means is that we'll continue to have fear as part of our life. That's okay. Fear's our dear old friend, and fear's going to be here with us for the long haul. So when we think about that spectrum of fear, I'm not attempting to downplay legitimate fear of impending doom. Just as the cavemen ran away from the saber-toothed tiger, and present day you should run from things that cause you harm, like hurricanes or fires or rabid raccoons or red flags of a harmful relationship, these are useful fears. And they're also harmful fears. So we're talking about those everyday fear encounters. The longer we hold on to fears and let them fester, they can really take control and hold us back from what we really want out of this life. And we all want great lives. That's why we're here listening to this podcast. We want the best. We want to live our best lives. So for me, growing up, believe it or not, I had a fear of public speaking. And it's actually pretty common. I actually looked that up recently, and most people, in a poll in 2017, so that's probably changed now in 2020, but folks actually had a more prominent fear of public speaking than they did of death, which is bananas. But that was me. I was afraid of failing. I lacked confidence. I had a stutter. So that was something for me as I kind of progressed through high school and college, I was able to collect some skill sets, but that was something I would never have imagined myself doing. So we all can kind of resonate with a fear that maybe we've overcome or a fear that is still part of our day-to-day. So one thing I learned in my journey to become a public speaker, and now that's really the majority of my work is speaking in public virtually now, but usually in person, is now I kind of have a term to call it thanks to this chapter I'm on reading Jay Shetty's book here. So it goes something like this. When we talk about an emotion that we feel based upon our fear, we usually say that we are the emotion. I am angry, I am sad, I am worried, I am scared. So fear and the subsequent emotions are something that we are feeling. We are not that feeling. Unless we're talking about the movie Inside Out, which is actually a really great movie if you haven't seen it, but I digress. So the way that this goes is when we say I am sad, angry, I am worried, and making us that feeling, right? That's called attachment. We're attaching ourselves and our identity to that emotion and in turn to that fear. So instead, we want to look at something called detachment and reframing your self-talk with, I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel worried. Put your emotions in their rightful place. Do not identify yourself as those emotions. So this also allows us to really retrace our fears back to the root. So if we find that we are closely related to our attachment and the way we see, view, and communicate the fear as if it's part of our identity when we say things like, I am. So once you identify your feeling of fear towards a certain activity, whether it's leg day, flying, heights, the detachment helps you see things clearer. And it paves the way for you to really seek a more productive way to view that action that causes you that feeling of fear. So if the action that you've identified for yourself is keeping you from what you want, it's stressing you out, it's running you down, you can't get your mind off of it, but you don't know how to move past it, what do we do about that? So I'm going to use an example from a short-term fear that I recently had, and still have bits and pieces of that as well. And perhaps some of you can relate. So when COVID first hit in the beginning of the year, I know a lot of industries were very, very immensely impacted, and my heart goes out to every single one. And my organization, being a hotel corporation, certainly had some serious hardships. So we had hotels closing left and right. We had team members being terminated or furloughed, and it was just a really, really, really hard time. And I remind you, I train hotel team members. So at that time, hotels were closing indefinitely. And it was very grim, very bleak, and we didn't quite know if we were ever going to see the end of the tunnel, what that was going to look like, and really how secure our jobs were. So I actually journal very frequently. I'm a bit of a journal nerd. And I'm glad that I did, because it was interesting to go back through the journal and see kind of some of the things I was talking about. So in late March through early April, my journal entries were kind of few and far in between. I write daily gratitude lists every day, and some of my lists were not quite as fun or exciting or creative as usual. One day I wrote, I'm grateful for DoorDash, just DoorDash. Scented candles, sleeping in, fresh baked cookies. I even wrote one day, bad morning, hope it improves. That was my gratitude entry. Not sure how I let that slide. So at this point in time, as I mentioned, March, April, I felt control of the situation slipping. And I actually had just gotten furloughed. And it was really, really tough. And my identity is a trainer. Get me in front of a room full of skeptical learners, that is my jam. I cannot wait to watch their arms unfold and their posture engage. as they find value in a session that they maybe their manager sent them and they didn't want to attend. I tell you, that's my favorite thing to do, and I live for those moments. And at that time I was thinking, well, I lived for those moments. Those moments might be behind me. I am non-essential. I am broke. I am uncertain. I am afraid I'm not going to be able to pay rent. These are things that I found myself saying. But then, as April came to a close, I found a shift in some of those entries and also my mindset. I found myself identifying those as feelings. I'm feeling afraid that I want to get to feel that energy for a while. I want to get to feel that audience and that atmosphere of doing what I love most with our hotel buddies. I was feeling uncertainty. I was feeling uncertainty and unclear about my job. And I was seeking clarity all the while of how can I get closer to what I want. And at the end of the day, what I want is to get back out in front of folks, training with my peeps, feeling the energy, and being able to engage with anybody. It doesn't have to be a crowd. It could be a few folks. I just really, really enjoyed that atmosphere, and I knew that about myself. We talked about purpose a couple episodes back, and I knew my purpose, but it was getting lost in the noise and in the fuss of all the uncertainty and all those feelings of fear. So I thought to myself, what can I control? And I started this podcast. I sure did. I started this podcast as a way to talk with you, all of you out there, and it was my way to take control of what I could, to understand that I feel certain fears, I feel certain emotions, but what do I really want, and how can I still achieve that? It might look different, it might be challenging, it might be scary along the way. The fears certainly haven't stopped as I've embraced and embarked on a journey that was very foreign to me. But starting this podcast, after detaching my identity that I had racked up over the weeks of furloughing and that mindset that I found myself trapped in, and repositioning those feelings as feelings, right? Rather than an identity, I was able to start this podcast. I was able to write more, which is what I've always loved to do, but I've made excuses and I haven't found a way to do it. I was able to produce content. And when I think about the way that I was able to do that, I am 100% certain that it is through detaching my identity and keeping my mindset focused. Feel the feelings, right? We talk about that a lot on this podcast too. Feel the feelings, but identify them as feelings. It is not your identity. And take handle of what you can control in the situation. So I ask you this. Where are you sitting in fear today? Is it job security? I can relate. I certainly can relate. Is it fear of loneliness? Is it fear of public speaking, perhaps? What is it for you? And can you retrace that fear back to its root? Can you detach the feeling from the fear and treat it as a feeling and not who you are? I know that you can, and I sure hope that you will. I know it's spooky season, I know it's Halloween week, but think about the possibilities. They are endless. Think about all that you're capable of. And it starts right here. Okay, quick plug before I let you go for today. And I haven't done a fun fact in a while, and I kind of alluded to one just a moment ago, that people often list public speaking higher than their fear of death. Bananas. But I get it. I was there before too. And I remember what they used to say when you're growing up and doing your first presentation. Just picture everybody naked, right? Did that really ever work for anybody? I don't think so. But I think what they were trying to get at definitely has some legs. And I'm excited to share my next series. So when the new year rolls, I've started to create some content around hacks that I've found success with on how to realize your public speaking potential. Because remember, fear causes us to lose our connection with our abilities. I know you can do this. There's more to come soon. Happy Halloween, everyone.